Have you ever wondered what happens when your soul leaves the body, not just floating above, but crossing into the realm where nothing can be hidden anymore? In that place, there are no excuses, no justifications, only truth, and not the kind you speak, but the kind you become. Tom Sawyer, no. Not the fictional one, but a real man who once lived with cruelty in his heart, found himself pinned under a truck, his body shattered, his life hanging by a thread. And that's when it happened. He didn't just see the pain he caused, he became it. He found himself inside her, his wife, the one he used to scream at, ignore, dismiss. And now, he felt it all. The emotional bruises, the silent ache of not being seen, the physical pain that he once caused with a careless word or gesture. But this time, it wasn't memory. It wasn't guilt. It was her breath, her pulse, her broken pieces, as if they were his own. This is what they call the life review, but not as a movie, not as judgment, as experience. You become everyone you've touched. You feel what they felt, both the wounds you opened and the moments you healed. Imagine that for a moment. What if, when you leave this body, you must walk through the lives of others, wearing their skin, breathing with their lungs, carrying their sorrow? Would you live differently today? Tom came back changed. Not religious, not frightened, but awakened. Because once you've been the person you hurt, you understand that we are not separate. There is no you or me, only reflections. And pain is a message we eventually hear, even if it takes death to do so. Maybe that's why every soul who's seen the other side comes back saying the same thing. What you do to another, you do to yourself. And in the great mirror of the afterlife, there are no lies, only love, or the absence of it. Have you ever felt someone else's pain and known deep down it was yours too? Maybe that wasn't your imagination. Maybe it was memory of something your soul already knows. There are moments in life that change everything, but there are moments beyond life that change you. Jeremy Renner, an actor the world knew for his strength, was crushed beneath a 15,000-pound machine, 38 bones shattered, ribs collapsing into lungs, breath slipping away with every heartbeat. And then time stopped. He didn't lose consciousness. He didn't black out. He left, not his body, but the world as we know it. He entered a place he couldn't describe. No clocks, no pain, no sound, and yet everything was there, all at once. He said, "It just is. Not past, not future, not even now. Just is." He wasn't afraid. He wasn't holding on. He was free. Free from the rules of earth, gravity, fear, pressure, success. Free from noise, judgment, urgency. And in that vast silence, he discovered something no doctor, no award, no amount of fame had ever given him: peace. He came back, yes, but the man who returned wasn't the same. He said, "Love is the only thing you take with you when you die, not the roles you play, not the fears you carry, not the body you wore. Only love. That's it." So, let me ask you, if time could vanish in an instant, if everything you know could collapse into one single truth, what would remain? Would it be the emails you forgot to send, the things you said in anger, or the hand you once held with tenderness? the words you whispered to someone in pain. Jeremy returned with a knowing that life is brief, but love is forever. And maybe that's all we need to remember, to live more deeply, right now. What if the soul isn't bound by time at all? What if it's waiting, just beyond the ticking of the clock, for us to remember who we truly are? Imagine you are drowning, not metaphorically, truly drowning beneath 10 feet of rushing water. You can't breathe. You can't fight. You can't escape. But instead of panic, you feel something else. A warmth, a presence, a knowing. That was what Dr. Mary Neal felt when her kayak was pinned under a waterfall in South America. For 30 long minutes, she was gone, and yet she had never felt so alive. There, in that place beyond death, she was held. She says it wasn't a vision. It was a physical sensation, as if the arms of the divine cradled her like a child. And in that embrace, she was told something unthinkable. You must go back. You have more work to do. And then the voice said something else. Your son will die. At that moment, her heart didn't shatter. It opened. Because in that world, death wasn't cruel. It was return. And love wasn't broken. It was everywhere. Her son was 9. Healthy, laughing, full of life. And she carried that knowing. For 10 quiet years, a silent countdown. Not in fear, but in surrender, because the soul, once it has touched the other side, no longer lives in panic. It lives in purpose. You see, Mary wasn't given a punishment. She was given an assignment to return, to live, to love deeper, to prepare, and one day, 10 years later, her son was gone, struck by a car during training, his journey complete. And still, she did not collapse. She said, even in the sorrow, I felt joy, because she had seen what waited for him, because she knew his soul had never left hers. So I ask you, gently, what if some losses are known before they happen, not as curses, but as sacred invitations to love more fiercely while we can? What if your soul already knows what it came here to do and who it will one day return to? And what if the greatest healing is not in preventing pain, but in remembering the love that always waits beyond it? Would you live differently if you knew your time with someone was short, but eternal at the same time? It happened on a clear day. Dr. Mary Neal's son was training outdoors. A normal day, nothing unusual, until a car struck him, and in one instant he was gone. She had known, not how, not when, but she had known. 10 years earlier, in the realm beyond life, she had been told this moment would come. And still, when the call came, her heart cracked. She cried. She screamed. She grieved like any mother would. But in the middle of that raw pain, something else appeared. A quiet joy. Not because he died, but because she knew he was not lost. She had seen what came after. She had felt the love that holds every soul. And she trusted that her son had simply gone home. He was not buried. He was welcomed. Not gone. Just returned. That's the difference between sorrow with despair and sorrow with meaning. She still missed him. She still ached. But she didn't fear, because when you've touched the other side, you understand. Grief and joy can live in the same breath. she said. Even in my darkest moment, I knew he was wrapped in the same light that once held me, and that knowing was her anchor. So ask yourself, what if you didn't need to resist the pain? What if, instead, you could open to it? What if loss isn't the end of the story, but a shift in form? What if love never dies, only transforms in a world that rushes us to move on, to get over it? Mary's story reminds us, you don't have to let go. You only have to trust that love goes where bodies cannot. And maybe, just maybe, grief is not a failure of faith. Maybe it's the echo of a bond that was never meant to be broken. Would you grieve differently if you knew your tears were also a kind of prayer? Dr. Bruce Grayson didn't believe in the soul. He was a man of science, a psychiatrist, trained to trust only what could be measured, scanned, or proven. But one night, everything changed. He was called to the emergency room to see a young woman who had overdosed. She was unconscious, unresponsive, completely out. He gathered details from her roommate, spoke to her down the hall, then returned to check on the patient. Nothing. Still unconscious. The next morning, he walked in as she slowly opened her eyes. Before he could even speak, she looked at him and said, "I know you. You're the doctor who spoke with my roommate down the hallway." He paused, confused. How could she know that? He asked. But you were unconscious. How could you possibly see or hear that? And then she told him everything. The color of his tie, the exact words he used, the conversation word for word, even the tiny stain on his necktie, hidden beneath his white coat. It stunned him. No machines could explain this. No textbook had prepared him. He had kept that stain hidden. Only the roommate saw it. When he unbuttoned his coat for just a moment, and yet the patient knew she had seen it. While clinically unconscious, while her brain showed no awareness at all, he tried to explain it away. Hallucination. Coincidence. But deep down, he knew better. This wasn't imagination. This was consciousness without a body. That moment cracked something open. He said, "Nothing in medical school prepared me for that." And from that day on, he began collecting stories, thousands of them, all pointing to one truth. The mind is not the same as the brain. You see, if a brain is offline, yet memories are formed, sights are seen, and love is felt, then something deeper is at work, something beyond biology, something eternal. So what if everything we've been taught about where you live is only part of the truth? What if awareness isn't trapped inside the skull, but flows through us, like light through glass? If your mind isn't just neurons, then who are you, really? And where will you go when the brain no longer functions, but the soul keeps listening? Sometimes it takes a stain on a tie, seen through eyes that should have been closed, to remind us we are more than science can measure. He was only 13. His name was Harmony. One moment, he was crossing the street in London. The next, his body lay lifeless on the pavement, his face torn open, his breath gone, covered with a sheet. They told his mother, "Your son is dead." But Harmony's story didn't end there, because while his body lay still, his soul rose. He floated above the scene, watching the crowd, seeing his sister run back across the bridge, shouting, That's my brother. And then it came, not a light, not a tunnel, but a presence. He described it as everything and nothing, loud but silent, massive but gentle, a force that wrapped around him, like warmth that doesn't burn. And then a voice, not from outside, not from his ears, but from within. It didn't shout. It didn't command. It whispered, "It's not your time." Harmony knew, without question, that the voice was divine. He called it God, not the God of any one religion, but the God behind every heartbeat, every star, every breath. He said, I knew exactly who it was. It was the Creator, and he wasn't done with me yet. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the street, surrounded by gasps and disbelief. He's alive. They had already given up, declared him gone, but the whisper had brought him back. Since that day, he said he's heard that same voice, again and again, not always loudly, sometimes faint, but always clear, in moments of fear, in moments of doubt. There it is. He'd say, there's the voice again, and when it speaks, he listens. So, let me ask you, have you ever heard that voice? The one that says, wait, not yet. Go this way instead. It doesn't always sound like thunder. Sometimes it sounds like your own breath. But it's there, calling you to remember. You are not alone. Maybe the miracle is not that some people die and return. Maybe the real miracle is that every soul has access to that divine whisper, even now, even here, even in you. If you could quiet the world for just one moment, what might you hear, and would you trust it enough to follow? Sometimes the most powerful messages aren't spoken, they're simply known, not in your head, but deep inside your chest, where language cannot reach, where the soul remembers. Gabrielle was 27, a rising country singer from Arkansas. She was driving home from Nashville, 7.5 hours through stormy skies. She felt sick, but something pushed her to keep going. That night, her mother woke up out of nowhere, feeling a strange urge to do laundry. She walked past Gabrielle's old bedroom and heard the sound no parent ever wants to hear. Her daughter was having seizures. An ambulance rushed her to the nearest hospital. Not the best one, just the closest. And it was there, under those fluorescent lights, in the middle of a thunderstorm. Gabrielle flatlined. 30 seconds, maybe longer. She can't say for sure, because in that moment, she wasn't gone. She was more awake than ever. She didn't see angels. She didn't hear a voice, but she felt something, a presence, and a message, not with words, not even with images, just a deep, complete knowing. Not yet. She didn't hear it. She didn't imagine it. She just knew it, with the kind of certainty that doesn't need proof. When she returned, she was different. The world felt heavier, louder, shallower. She had touched something deeper, and now everything else felt small. Money, fame, deadlines. They no longer held her the way they once did. All that mattered was love, family, presence. She said, I couldn't think about my career. I just wanted to hold the people I loved and be held back. So many people asked her, what did you see? What did you hear? And her answer, I just knew, because some things The soul understands without speaking. So ask yourself, have you ever felt a truth you couldn't explain? A knowing that didn't come from thought, but from something older, something wiser, something inside you that has no mouth, but speaks anyway. That's your soul. That's the part of you that never needed words. It just knows. In a world obsessed with answers, maybe it's time to honor the truths we simply feel. Because sometimes what saves us is not what we can prove, it's what we cannot deny. You've just walked through stories, not of endings, but of return, not of death, but of remembering who we are beyond the skin, beyond the noise, beyond the ticking of the clock. What if every heartbreak, every goodbye, every silence you've ever felt wasn't a closing, but a doorway, a soft pull back to the truth your soul has never forgotten? That love is the only thing you take with you, that everything you give to others comes back to meet you, not in punishment, but in understanding. And that somewhere, just beyond this moment, your soul is already known, already seen, already held. So tonight, breathe a little slower, listen a little deeper, and ask yourself, gently, what have I been too busy to feel? What truth has been waiting? In the quiet, you are not alone. You never were. And the ones you love are not lost. They're just closer than your breath, quieter than your thoughts, but still with you, always. Thank you for walking this path with me. And if something in you was stirred, remember, that was your soul, knocking softly on the door of your awareness. Until next time, may you walk gently, love deeply, and listen to the quiet voice within